You manufacturer, do you want to succeed on the digital transformation journey of your company? Nowadays, digital transformation is a challenge that all companies are facing, and not only to be more profitable and efficient, but also to stay alive in the market, a market that's changing fast, that is more and more global, competitive, and connected. So the idea of implementing an ERP is a good one, but it's not new. Decades ago, companies already started ERP implementations, and regardless of the provider, the budget, or the complexity of the scope, many implementations were not successful due to lack or poor change management. My name is Lucas. I'm Manufacturing Expert Coordinator at Odoo, and in this talk I'm going to tell you why we are convinced that Odoo 16 is the best solution to facilitate the digital transformation of your company. Today, after a brief introduction, we are going to see what is the most important, of course, the new features in the database, and I will also give you a list of talks that I really encourage you to watch in order to learn more about the new features. And we close with a Q&A session, and I will be glad to answer all your questions. So first, let's see the context in which we are part of. The Organization for Economic and Cooperation and Development led a study to measure the output of industrial production comparing the levels of 2015 and 2021. As we can see in the graph, only few countries had a decrease in terms of industrial production, but the majority of them increased their production, and some duplicated, triplicated, or produced even 4 times more comparing to 2015. So the challenge of producing more and more efficiently is here knocking on our door. But let's check what we need to do internally to be able to face this huge challenge. As I said earlier, change management is an eternal challenge that companies need to deal with. It is in human nature to be resistant to change, but in some industries, such as manufacturing, we have sometimes a stronger resistance to change the way of working. And the main reasons are workers performing manual tasks, lots of paper-based processes, lack of skills to work with complex softwares, or simply people that are used to work with legacy and obsolete systems that are not integrated at all with other areas, such as inventory, accounting, or engineering. But we can summarize this last point simply as inertia. So, to cope with this challenging environment, we really need a powerful and affordable solution that will give you all the elements to facilitate the adoption by the employees and to boost your manufacturing process. So what you can expect from Odoo 16? And please remember these words: more optimization, more flexibility, more collaboration, and a better user experience. So let's see everything now in the database. Let's start talking about specific capacities per work center. Now in V16, we can define capacity, setup, and cleanup time per work center, but defining specifically the products that are passing by them. So let's imagine that we are in the metallurgy industry and we are talking about specific capacities. We have some products here that we produce, like the steel and aluminum sheet, and the process is quite similar for both. We just need to melt, press, and polish them. If we see here, the aluminum sheet is smaller than the steel one, and we can define the capacity of 2 in the pressing machine and in the polishing machine, meaning that in this new tab, I can say that I process 2 at the same time, even though my standard capacity of this work center is 1 for all other products. But why is this important? Because now, thanks to this new feature, we can have a more accurate planning when we allocate our work centers. Let's see how it works with a real example. I will create a manufacturing order to produce 2 steel sheets, and here I will book this manufacturing order to start next Monday at 8 a.m. sharp. Here, there we go. I will confirm and plan this manufacturing order to book all my work centers starting from Monday. I will also create a second manufacturing order to produce the 2 aluminum sheets in order to have a clear comparison between both products, And on purpose, I will book this manufacturing order to start on Tuesday, so one day after, exactly at the same time at 8 a.m. And then when I confirm and plan this manufacturing order, I can check my planning by work center, and I see here that my first manufacturing order starts at 8 a.m. and the last operation finishes at 3 p.m. For the second product, the second manufacturing order that I'm using the specific capacity for the aluminum sheet, I start at 8 a.m. and my last operation finishes at noon, which gives me the whole afternoon to produce anything else, and then I can improve the capacity of my work center. It's a very important tool to manage our planning. But it's not only that. Now in V16, we have a very important feature, which is split and merge manufacturing orders. Still talking about metallurgy, and let's imagine that here we can drill some holes in the aluminum sheet or the steel sheet, and I will talk about setup and cleanup time to give you a better example. If we check here, let's open this bill of material. I need 1 hour to drill the holes, and if I check my work center, the drilling machine, I have a setup of 1 hour and a cleanup of 1 hour. So understanding how it works, if I need to produce 2 steel sheets or to drill the holes here, I need 1 hour to configure my work center, 2 hours to process the work order, and 1 hour to clean it up before we start the next manufacturing order. But in this case, I have 2 manufacturing orders from 2 different sales for the same product. And then if I plan as it is today, I hit here this button and I can see my planning by work center. I check in October that I have on Monday the first manufacturing order booking my whole morning and the second one booking my whole afternoon. And another important feature that we have here in the planning is the capacity of work center according to the time frame we are using here in the planning. In this case, I'm checking the planning per week, and I can see that I have a total capacity of 40 hours, and I have 2 manufacturing orders booking my work center drilling machine for 8 hours. This is how it looks like for the moment. But now let's take advantage of this new feature, and then I will merge both manufacturing orders here. By merging them, I have a new one of 4, and I will book on purpose this manufacturing order to start at the same day at 8 a.m. sharp. There we go. And what we can see here is Odoo kept the relationship of my manufacturing order and my 2 sales orders that were the source of this production, which is very important when we work with make to order. And when we check our planning again, I will go to my week in which I have the manufacturing order, and instead of 8 hours, I booked only 6. So I am increasing the efficiency of my work centers by just merging these manufacturing orders. But on the other way around, I can also split manufacturing orders. So if I use this same example here, I will define that I split these manufacturing orders, let's say in 2 again. Odoo will give me the number of manufacturing orders I want to have and the suggested quantities. Of course, I'm free to change accordingly. And I will say that one will be done on Monday and the other one will be done on Tuesday. When I split, what happens is that we have 2 back orders linked to the original one. So the 103 now is composed by 2 back orders, and I have the 2 products in the 2 different days as I selected. So you see, the planning is much more flexible thanks to this new functionality. Now let's change the subject. Instead of metallurgy, let's see the example of a company that produces drones. And here I would like to emphasize the bill of materials because we have a very basic example. We have 4 components, we have 4 operations, and now in V16, we have a new button to see the overview of this production. Now we can understand all the available components that we have and plan our production based on that. As you can see, Odoo will give me the ready to produce for my finished product, the drone, and all components that are below. We can see the available quantities that we have in stock and how many units I need to produce 1 unit of my finished product. Now it's fine. I see that I can produce 5 units. Everything is displayed in green, available, no problem. But what is very important here is the possibility to have different scenarios. So imagine that instead of 5, I would like to see how would be my situation if I decide to produce 6 So I don't have enough components to produce 6. I see that I have only batteries and frames available. But I would need 12 blades to produce 6 drones, and I have only 10 in stock. Now, as we can see here, the route of this product, or the next step, would be to buy the 2 missing blades from Airco, but this supplier has a lead time of 2 days. This is why I can see that from today, 22nd of September, I would have this product available in stock only 24, because the supplier needs 2 days. But my main problem is not this product, but is the engine. I have 1 product missing, and this supplier has a longer lead time, 10 days, meaning that I would only have all components in October 2nd. On top of that, considering the longest lead time, Odoo is adding my manufacturing lead time of 2 days, so the time I need to produce the drones, and then I can see that I would have the drone available only in October 4th. But why is this important? Because if I'm a salesperson and I have the client in the line and I'm promising a delivery date, I can first check when I would have the drone available before I have an agreement and promise the product before I am able to deliver. This is very important. We are really optimizing our resources here. But now, coming back to the bill of materials, now we have a very important option to allow us to have operations planned in parallel. Thanks to this new feature, operation dependencies, we can specify here that we have internal and external assemblies running in parallel, so they're not blocked by any other operation, and I only start the 3rd operation painting after I finish the 2 first ones. And that is not the only improvement that we have here, thanks to this relationship between the operations. If we check how we can plan, let's first create, of course, the manufacturing order to produce the 5 drones that I know that I have enough capacity to produce, so 5 drones. But this is not the only improvement that we have. We can see that now, thanks to this new relationship between the operations, I will book here to start at Monday, 8 a.m. Odoo will display the planning in a different way. Now we can see that I have arrows showing exactly what is the dependency between the operations that I have. As I said, operation 1 and 2 will be done in parallel, and it's not only a matter of seeing the relationship between these 2 operations and the 3rd one. As you can see, I'm able to drag and drop my tasks here in my planning, but if by mistake I create an inconsistency, Odoo will display this with a red arrow. And of course, it's not only displaying what is the important point here. Odoo helps us to fix the mistake that we made. If we click on the right arrow, Odoo will drag and drop everything accordingly. If I move the first operation back and I hit the left arrow, everything comes back together. And if I want to break the dependency between tasks, saying that my quality assurance will be done on Friday, a complete standalone operation, and if I keep moving my operations, anything will touch the operation that I broke here, the relationship. So this is very important. We are really optimizing the way of managing the planning. And now that we have the planning already created, let's finally go to the execution and start producing my drone. As you can see here, I have the manufacturing in 2 steps. So first I will do the picking, and there is a very important point now, a new feature, which is the quality check per operation time. Until V15, I could create quality checks per products or per work orders. But sometimes we have checks that are intrinsic to the operation that we are performing. Like in this case, in the picking, I want to take 1 picture of all my components before I move them to the production area. As you can see, I have here the quality check, take a picture. I will select the picture that I took from all my components instead of doing 1 by 1, and I can simply validate and move all the products from warehouse to production area. Good. Now I can finally start my production, and I have 3 important improvements in terms of manufacturing execution system. As you can see here in my work centers, now I can define that some employees will be required to log in order to start the work orders, and I can specify who is allowed to work in each work center. In this case, I say that Mitchell admin is the only person allowed to work in assembly line 1, and in assembly line 2, I have only Mark Demo as the person allowed to work here. I will start the first manufacturing order in the assembly line 1. Odoo asks Mitchell admin to add the password in order to have the work order available. And this is the second main improvement that we have here. We have a brand new tablet view. It's much better now when you are using a touchscreen device because you have this left bar where you can see all the steps that you are performing in order to process your work order. As we can see here, we are producing 5 drones. So the first step is to record the consumption of batteries. And then the second one is the consumption of engines. And we have, of course, the check icon here showing that I finished the step. The first work order is done. In parallel, my colleague Mark Demo will start the second work order. He also needs to log in, add his password, and then he has exactly the same structure here. The first step, record consumption of frames. The second step, record consumption of blades. Everything good. And then finally, I can jump to the third step, which is the painting. So any user can open this work order and start working on it. So let's do it quickly, because I want to show you the third main improvement that we have here in terms of execution. Now we are improving the collaboration between our teams, because people working on the shop floor, getting their hands dirty, they can finally suggest improvements on the fly to the engineering team. So they are the best people to see on the fly what should be done differently. And when they click on this button, add a step, an ECO will be created automatically in the PLM application. Of course, here I'm just giving you a little taste of how it looks like, but there is a whole talk explaining these 3 main improvements in detail. So don't miss this talk. Now, I want to show you something that we are improving also in terms of collaboration, but not only the internal collaboration, because sometimes I can subcontract my products. I don't have enough capacity, I'm too busy, and I raise a purchase order to my subcontractor Drones Inc. Here in this case, I can grant access to our portal, and my subcontractor will have access to our database exactly as any client has today, and they will be able to see all the subcontracting orders that they have. But it's not only a matter of seeing the orders. The main point here is that they can specify which components, the quantities, and which lots they are consuming to produce our products. Think about food industry or the pharmaceutical one. They are very strict in terms of having a perfect traceability of everything that is consumed. So as the production is happening at the subcontractors' facilities, they don't know what the subcontractor is consuming to produce each lot of their finished products. So this is very important for these industries as well. And if we come back to our database, the last improvement that I would like to show you today is the user experience that is much better now in the master production schedule. As we can see, we added buttons here to see the forecast of the products in the inventory. We have the possibility to import records. This is absolutely important when you have your sales forecast and you need to import the forecast of sales of your finished products and trigger all the supply chain that comes after. We also have the possibility to filter products by bill of materials. So we search here the drones and I can see all the components of my drone. And finally, I can select several products at the same time and trigger actions such as delete or replenishment. So now that you are familiarized with the new features, I would like to invite you to watch the talks that I have here. You will have more information about the planning on Wednesday. On Thursday, we have the new manufacturing execution system. You will learn about each detail of the 3 main features that I showed you today. We have also a talk about the planning. And on Friday, we have one talk dedicated to the quality improvements and another one specifically about subcontracting. So, if you are thinking about optimization, flexibility, collaboration, and an ERP with a good user experience or very user-friendly, you are for sure looking for Odoo 16. Thank you so much.
this great talk. I think we can get to the questions, right?
Yeah.
All right, we have some questions in the pad. If anybody wants to add any questions, feel free. The first one is the manufacturing application integrated with the accounting? Is there impact in the inventory, in journal entries created, the balance sheet?
Yeah, absolutely. As we are consuming components, for example, if we have automated inventory evaluation, the journal entries are created straight away. And we can also have the possibility to create analytic entries if we have analytic account defined in our bill of materials. This is very important when you have engineering to order processes, for example.
Perfect, thank you. Second question we have here, I don't know if you will be able to answer this one, but
I hope so.
when will flexible consumption be available for subcontracting?
Good question. It's available now if you are producing in-house. For subcontracting, of course, you can record more or less consumption, but I don't know if the question is about to have the same behavior as we have for in-house production. But yeah, today we can have a different consumption, even if you are subcontracting.
Okay, perfect. Third question, is it possible to split the picking of the components when we split a confirmed manufacturing order?
Now what we have is the possibility to propagate the modifications that we have in the manufacturing order. So if you have manufacturing 2 steps and we change the manufacturing order, the quantities to produce after I have my picking, Odoo will reflect this behavior and the picking will be updated accordingly. So one basic example, if I reduce my quantities to produce and I have already picked more components, Odoo will create automatically a return to send components back to stock.
Perfect. Next question. Is it possible to use the operations set on one of the bill of materials for another one? Or to have the possibility to use operations for different bills of materials?
Yeah, it will not be exactly the same operation, but it's very easy. There is a button copy existing operation. So if you have a bill of material and you have maybe assembly, and you want to use this same operation in another bill of material, you can just create a new bill of material, click on this button, copy existing operation, and then you bring all the configuration from the previous BOM.
Okay, perfect. I see lots of more questions coming in, so just gonna check if there's an interesting one. Okay, let's just go for the last one. Can we temporarily raise the capacity of a work center?
Yes, you can change the capacity, but I think instead of keep updating the capacity, now as we have the possibility to manage the capacity per product, I think it's better to think about the products you are processing and then define the specific capacity for each of.
Okay, perfect. Maybe another one. Can we use the barcode application to pick the product that we will use in the manufacturing order?
Yeah, for the picking, it works perfectly because the picking is like any other inventory operation. So you can use the barcode if you have one integrated or plugged in your computer. Or if you have the barcode app, you can also scan or pick the components using the barcode.
All right. Next question, maybe final question. Will the subcontractors, because they now have portal access, will they also have access to quality checks through the portal?
No. The quality check is something that the subcontractor is doing in their facility. So there should be a contract or something that they have a compliance or minimum standards to reach in order to produce. But they don't need to perform quality checks, and we don't need to have this information in the database.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Lucas, for your presentation, and thank you for that.
Thank you.